Hey friends, I'm Laura and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be planning my dream garden together. I have dreams of living on a homestead where I've got a whole fruit orchard and I've got a ton of different lilac bushes and different varieties of lilacs, and I have a cut flower garden and a vegetable garden and basically a lot of big dreams. But that's just not where we're at in this season of life. In this season of life, we are working on building our family, and moving in our current city is not really a great option right now. Basically, to move, we would have to spend a lot more money to get a lot less than what we currently have now. So with that being said, I'm trying to figure out how to turn the home that I do have and the property that we do have into my dream garden and make the most out of this season of life and the life that I've been given and the life that I have, instead of just sitting around wishing that I had more or different or better. So I'm really excited because if you haven't seen one of my latest videos, I talked about how I was recently diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis, and it's been a lot to process, and it has a lot of implications for my health long term, consequences that I've already been dealing with for the past 22 years and will continue dealing with. And it's just been like a heavy season. It's been a lot to process. It's been just like not fun, I want to say. Like getting surgeries and bad news, and like, talking about more surgeries and expensive medications and a lower quality of life is not like a fun roll of the dice. So I am trying to be very intentional about creating good things in my life and focusing on the good things in my life, because I don't want to lose sight of them. And I want to make sure that my mental health is really well protected as I'm processing through all of this new information and what life is going to look like moving forward. So today I want to plan my dream garden for our current home, and I love dreaming about the garden. It makes me so giddy and happy because I have so many ideas, and I just need to try to figure out how to translate that to the property that we currently have. So we're going to be doing a lot of things today to plan out the dream garden, and I'm so excited. I've got a little garden notebook here, and this is where I keep a lot of my ideas for the garden. See the little pumpkin illustration I made, and then you can see my 2022 garden plans where I wrote all about everything, and garden design. So basically, for the past several years that I've had a garden, I've been using this notebook to put all my ideas in. So I'm going to start a new page here, and we are going to call it Dream Garden. I'll put my light in a bottle, something to guide your way. There are certain things that immediately come to mind for me when I think of my dream garden. So I am going to go ahead and write down what those things are, some components that I know I want in my dream garden. Scared to follow. There's a light in each new day. If the moon gives up bright. Okay, I've got my list of components written down. These are just the things that came to me like top of mind. Lilacs, vegetable garden, climbing flowers, arched trellises, cut flowers, fruit, preservation, so being able to preserve the food, cottage garden with flower borders around the edge of the property, so in-ground beds, and organic, peonies, raised beds, and herbs. So those are just some of the things that came to mind immediately as different components that I know I want, because I've been dreaming of my dream garden for years and years and years. And it's important to know that I'm not starting from a blank slate. I've been gardening for several years now, so my backyard already has some infrastructure there that can be used. I'm not starting from a blank spot. So I am really excited. I know I love all of these things. Now let's get to the vision part of this. I am going to be using a collection of different magazines and then also Pinterest to collect some inspiration ideas so you can get a vibe for what I'm going for. The sun stops and shining, you know you'll have land to hold. I'll tell you what, sometimes looking at these images is what makes me want to have a tiny homestead. Like, look at that. Look how gorgeous that greenhouse is. Truth be told, we do not have the space for something like this. We live in the city on a 1/4 of an acre plot. It's pretty small, and that includes like the house and everything, all the non-gardening parts of the plot as well. So we definitely could not fit like a giant greenhouse for hosting and growing and stuff, which is sad, but I need to keep the dreams appropriate for the season of life I'm in right now, since I'm trying to figure out how to turn my current home into my dream garden. Oh, this is so sweet. Some of the women featured in these magazines have the most beautiful photography. It's really inspiring. And you can just see all of the beautiful dahlias that she's growing in her garden there. It's got a lot of greenery. That's another thing I envision with my flower borders, is muffling the traffic noise, because the traffic noise where we live is pretty loud. As we wait on the timing, together we find it. There's more than one way to go home. I am getting so excited looking at all of the inspiration on Pinterest. I'm going a little crazy, so I need to reel it back in and figure out how to apply this to the actual yard that I have. And there are some images of inspiration that I have that are strictly like in printed format, because I purchased magazines or seed catalogs, and they have wonderful inspiration in them that you cannot find the photos for online, because if they gave away the photos for free online, you wouldn't buy the magazine. So I've got like a mixed combination here of physical and digital inspiration. This is a really good example of a printed image I just could not find online. This is a cutout from a magazine, and it's got all these different lilac varieties on it, and I'm obsessed. Can you see why I imagine a whole grove of lilacs and not just like a small yard with a single lilac in it? Let's look through my little digital vision board here of inspiration. I am noticing so many beautiful themes here. Now, obviously, some of the themes are coming through because I specifically searched for them, but there are also some other elements that I know I'm just drawn to. I'm really drawn to warm light pinks and neutrals, beiges, whites, and purples. And I'm really drawn to climbing flowers on arched trellises and fenceways and growing up the side of a house. Basically anything that is like cottage style gardening, I'm really loving. You can also see perfect examples here of flower borders in the ground along the edges of property. And then I also have some inspiration for vegetable gardens in actual garden beds or raised beds. Beautiful outdoor seating and dining. And then I also have examples of particular varieties of flowers that I was really drawn to, like certain peonies or roses or zinnias. And of course I have some window box and container gardening inspiration as well. Fire pit, that is definitely not happening this year, but a girl can dream, right? Like if I were dreaming of my ultimate backyard, if I were to turn my backyard into the ultimate backyard, this would be like hundreds of thousands of dollars of landscaping and adding a pool and a greenhouse and like it would be a little astronomical. So right now I'm just trying to figure out how to dial this in, reel it in a little bit to think about what I can do in the next year to 3 years basically. And a couple of other factors that I'm keeping in mind right now are my husband's desires, because he does all of the landscaping, like the mowing for the yard and the trimming of bushes and that sort of thing. The only thing I do is my plants, my flowers, my garden I take care of, but he does the whole rest of the yard. So he has particular requests in terms of like making sure mowing is easy and not really complicated with a lot of small spaces he's trying to like move the mower around into, which totally makes sense. So I'm trying to keep his preferences in mind. And then the other thing I'm really keeping in mind is the future and kind of thinking about, right now we have 2 dogs, but we're also pursuing becoming licensed to be foster parents, and we want to adopt in the future as well. So thinking about children, obviously we want to keep some of the backyard, which it's not a huge backyard. It's good, but it's not huge. We want to keep a good bit of that just empty for playing soccer and setting up a sprinkler and maybe a play set in the future. So I don't want to like build infrastructure across the entire backyard. 1, because my husband definitely would not go for that, and 2, because it doesn't align with our long-term goals to have a family. So I need to consider more than just my needs and also consider children and my husband and our dogs, because if it were up to me, I'd probably fill every inch out there with gardening. Gardening and greenhouses. Another theme that I'm noticing as I scroll through my inspiration is this idea of layering, especially around the edges of the property and the in-ground flower beds, is having like some really tall stuff in the back and some medium and then some shorter things up front. And I love the way it just makes the garden feel so textural and so deep with visual interest. And then the other great thing about that is the more densely planted that perimeter of the property is, the more sound dampening will happen from our road traffic up front. I have so much inspiration just bubbling right now, but I need to figure out how to make this fit into a very small space in my backyard. And obviously it's not all gonna fit. So this is just a good starting point right now. I'm gonna go online and figure out how I can try to digitally mock up what the backyard design might look like, or the small portion of the backyard that I am going to use for the dream garden. I really love that you can use the Farmer's Almanac Garden Planner for free for 7 days. So that's what I've done. I just signed up for their free little trial of it, and we'll see if I like it.
1 up and 3 below. When you're chasing after what matters, your heart knows where to go. If the moon stops it shining, you know you'll have a hand to hold as we wait on the timing. Together we find it. There's more than one way to go home.
Are you guys ready to see my design? I printed it off and I am like so geeked about it. I'm so excited. I sent it to my mother-in-law, my best friend, my sister, and this is what I used to pitch the idea to my husband for me to take over like 1/4 of the backyard with this garden. So I showed him exactly what it would look like and I'm in love. So let me show you. This is what it looks like. So we've got the border right there. You can see it's curvy and it's got some of the plants I already have, like the raspberry. I've got hydrangea out there. I've got some peonies. And then we've got all of this part is brand new. Right now this is just a grassy area and we've got 4 L-shaped beds that create a square garden feature with arched trellises connecting each of the L-shaped beds with a lilac in the middle. Oh my gosh. And I know this looks really big, but it's not. This raised bed right here is only 2 feet wide and these walkways are like 2.5, 3 feet wide. It's a tight squeeze. And I also don't know exactly what size the raised beds will be when I get them, because obviously I'll have to, when I'm buying through a company, they have like these kits already made. So I'll have particular size beds that I'll be buying based on what's available through the company. So this might change a little bit. Like say a bed might be shorter by 2 feet if that's what they have available, or it might be longer or something like that. But this is the general idea and I'm so in love with it. And then this is the part I am most excited about. So I knew I wanted a rose, I think last year or the year before is when I first started considering it, when I realized that there were more to roses than just the kind you find in the grocery store. There are these beautiful multi-layered kind that look like peonies and they're incredible. So I've really been wanting one for a while, and I've looked at heirloom roses for the past year and a half, and it was never a good time to buy. I knew those beds I had were rotting and I need to turn that into an in-ground garden bed. And until I do that, it's not the right time to buy a rose because it needs to get planted in the ground and I don't want to move it in the middle of a season or the year after I get it if it can be avoided. So it just hasn't been the right time to buy, and now it finally is because I am working on turning my dream garden into reality this year and taking some of those steps. So buying my first rose is on the list, and there's a couple criteria that I have. The most important one is that it needs to be a climbing rose and not a bushing rose. So a bushing rose will get really big and take up a lot of ground space, and I truly do not have that space. My beds are only going to be like 2 feet deep. And it's also just not the vibe I'm going for. With the cottage garden style I really want something that will climb along the fence and just give me a lot of bloom show up on the fence. So I think that would be stunning and incredible. So that's what I'm looking for. This is a company I've been looking at for over a year, and I ordered their catalog, which you can get for free. And I'm gonna choose a rose today, I think. I'm so excited. I can't believe the day is finally here. I've been waiting more than a year for this. Let's just jump to the climbing roses. Okay, this is already very different from what I was expecting. You don't really get to see the greenery on these. You don't get to see the growth pattern. And that is another consideration I have, is what does the foliage look like? This is the rose I originally fell in love with. Do you see how that looks like a tight little peony marshmallow? And then when it starts to unravel, it looks even more like a peony. All those layers, so beautiful. It doesn't have that traditional rose feeling like these ones right here have, but this is not in the climbing rose section, which is really, really sad. The climbing rose section starts on this page. So that is not awesome. I'll have to choose another one. That's actually going to be okay though, because to be honest, I think I want something with a little bit more color. Ooh. So when I'm on their website, each of the varieties will include photos like this where you can really see the growth habit of the plant. You can see what color the foliage is. Some of them have like a lighter green, some of them have a really bright green, and I tend to prefer plants that have this really dark green foliage. So that's something I'm thinking about. The other thing I want to keep in mind is that there are different types of blooms. Some are continually blooming, some will repeat bloom a couple times a year, and I think there are even some that will only bloom once a year. So I'm wanting to get the most show that I can, so I really would like something that continually blooms, I think, or repeat blooms. As for my colors, I think I really want to stick in the pink category. I love a lot of different colors. I love purple. I love a lot of the warm like apricot colors, but I think pink will be the one that will make me the most joyful when I look at it in the backyard. All right, friends, that's everything I have in store for today. We digitally planned out the garden layout. I considered all the different elements that I want to include in the garden that are reasonable for the yard that we have right now. And I feel like I've got a really good starting point to actually get out into the garden and start doing some work and ordering things and just building the dream garden now that I have an idea of what it's gonna look like. I hope you've enjoyed planning my dream garden with me, and hopefully it's given you some ideas for planning your dream garden as well. And I'm so excited. If you want to see what rose I ended up choosing, make sure to subscribe to my channel and I will take you along the adventures of creating my dream garden over the next year or two every time we make major moves in the garden. So we've got raised beds to order, we've got a rose to get arriving and planted and climbing, we have arch trellises to make, just so many wonderful things. But I finally have the plan in place and I hope you have enjoyed seeing that plan. And yeah, subscribe if you want to see the plan come to life. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.